To an extent, I'll support her.
Whenever you're ready.
All right, so growing up, we moved around a lot because my parents were military. My mom was Air Force and my dad was in the Army. So we've been everywhere, Hawaii, Guam, California, Georgia, been a lot of places. Lived on bases my whole life, never really understood civilian life because I grew around nothing but military kids. So nothing really stuck out, places-wise, when we would go somewhere, nothing really stood out because we would only be there for maybe a couple months to a year. So we never really had friendships with the kids in my class, so we just called them high and by relationships. So the place that really stood out to me was probably Fort Hood, and I don't know if it's because the people that live there, I just made really good friends, but yeah, I guess it's just the people that stayed there. But there was this one kid named Donnie. I hated Donnie with everything in me. Donnie was an asshole. I remember one time at lunch, he was like, "Hey, yo, John, do you want some powdered donuts?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, sure, powdered donuts." So I go over there and take the thing, eat it. It wasn't powder, it was nothing but salt. So I eat the thing, and I fall over. I'm dry heaving. I'm really throwing up, and they have to take me to the nurse. I'm like, okay, well, I don't like this kid. So a couple of days after that, I see he has an eraser for his test. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be nice. Hey, you want to borrow my eraser? Oh, thanks, man. So he takes it, and he starts erasing stuff, and I'm like, oh, can I have it back? And he hits me in the stomach. I don't know why he hit me in the stomach, but he did, and I fold. Go to the nurse again. So at this moment, I'm like, okay, well, I don't like this kid at all. I hate this kid. And this kid's constantly making fun of me, talking to his sister. I guess he just didn't like that. So every time I'm talking to his sister, he just has to get on me and start roasting. I hate that. And so around this time, it's maybe 2001, and 9/11 happens. And they announced that our parents are going to be leaving for war soon, and we're kids, so we don't really understand the concept of life and death, and so we don't think nothing of it. So my dad, he's like, "Oh, John, you're gonna need to step it up. You need to be the man of the house. You need to do this, you need to do that, you need to take care of mom." I'm like, "No." I'm just in my head, I'm like, "No, because you're gone. So there's gonna be no discipline in the house. I'm gonna run wild. I'm gonna do whatever I want because I know my mom's not gonna touch me. So you're the only one who's gonna actually hit me, but you're not here. So this is my whole year, the year no ass whoopings, year of the dragon." So I'm like, I'm gonna do everything in my power to get in as much trouble as I can before you get back. So the day he's leaving, we're in the car and we're driving. My mom's crying. My dad's putting on this huge macho face, some real serious I Am Legend Will Smith type stuff, and he's just in the passenger seat just doing that. And my mom's crying. I'm like, oh, can we not do that? I'm in the back seat, jamming out to some new hip hop song, just going ham in the back. And so we arrived at the little helicopter site, and they drop him off, and my dad's crying. He gives me a hug and all that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, get off me. And my mom's crying. And so he leaves. A couple months after that, the school announcement started turning real grim. Our parents are gone, know that we don't know what's going on. This girl named Natalie in my class, she gets called to the office, and as kids, we're like, ooh, she's about to get in trouble. Oh, this is gonna be amazing. Can't wait till she comes in. So she leaves. About 15 minutes later, she comes back in, face just horrified. She comes in crying, silently screaming. I don't know if that makes sense, but she's just shaken up. And she comes in, she's crying. The counselor comes in, the teacher comes in. We don't know what's wrong with this girl. She gets her stuff, doesn't look at anybody, doesn't talk, just gets her stuff and walks out of the classroom. And we're like, what is wrong with this girl? And so the counselor comes in, come to find out that Natalie's parent, her dad died in a roadside bombing in Iraq. And she's not coming back to school anymore. I guess she's gonna go live with her auntie somewhere, I don't know. But we don't see Natalie again. And then the weeks following that, we get more calls and announcements, more kids leaving, getting up and going. We don't see those kids again. I guess their parents died the same way, things happen to them. They're getting up, they're leaving, they come in with the same horrified expression. And then at this point, Donnie's still teasing me, still doing this and that. And so a couple months pass and he's still teasing me, and nothing, we don't hear anything on the announcements. So we're like, oh, everything must be good. It's close to the end of the year, our parents are soon to be coming back. So Donnie did something that morning, I forgot what he did, but I think I was talking to his sister by the locker room or whatever, and he threw me down and just slammed me up against the locker, started kicking me, and I'm like, oh, what does this kid want? Why does he keep on abusing me? So I get up and I go to the office and I write down this huge letter to the principal telling him all the things that Donnie did to me this year. Give it to her. She's like, oh, we're gonna call him in and talk to him. I'm like, yes, justice is served. So I go back to class and I hear Donnie's name on the announcements, and they call him to the office. And I'm like, yes, finally this kid is about to get what he deserves. So he gets up and he gives me this real serious stare, and he's walking to the office like this, really bad looking. And I'm like, yeah, you better get it. So he goes, and 15 minutes pass, and he comes back with the counselor and the teacher, tears pouring down his face, and I'm like, oh, maybe he really got in trouble that bad. Maybe I shouldn't have written that in like the most specific way. But yeah, he comes in, he's crying, tears pouring down his face, and his sister comes in crying, tears pouring down her face, and I'm like, I know he's not getting in trouble that bad to where his sister has to cry too. So I'm just like ecstatic. I'm just jumping up and down in my chair. Everybody's mentally high-fiving each other because everyone's too scared to do it, like, for real. So he comes in, and his stuff is ironically underneath my desk. Tears still pouring down his face, snot and spit and whatever else comes out of your face holes. And he's just crying hysterically. And he comes over to my desk, and he's walking real slow and just crying still, tears pouring down his face. And he reaches down, and he grabs the stuff underneath my desk, and he looks at me with a real serious expression, and he's still crying. I'm like, what is wrong with this kid? And the only thing he says is, I'm sorry, in like a real jumbled kind of voice. And he gets his stuff, and he walks out. His sister gets her stuff. She walks out. The counselor walks in, and she goes, Donnie's dad just died in a roadside bombing, and his mom, upon hearing the news, just killed herself because of the grief that same day. And I guess she didn't know that she still had 2 kids at home that she had to take care of, but I guess she was too strong. She was strong for too long, and she just killed herself. And so I'm sitting there, everybody in the class is like, wow, can't believe that happened. And everybody's crying. And I could have been super happy and excited about this news, being the harsh kid that I was, but I wasn't. And so I start crying too, and I'm looking at this kid walking out of the classroom, and I'm like, I start crying too, and I'm thinking, out of everything that he's done to me this year, nothing could amount to this pain that he's going to be feeling for the next 4 or 5 months, for the rest of his life, without having his parents in his life. And I started to think, maybe I shouldn't take life for granted, and maybe I shouldn't hoard so much hate over one kid when I know that this kid has just lost everything. And I started to think, maybe I shouldn't take life for granted, and I just started looking at the brighter sides of things. And that is my story.